Well, hi, and welcome. This is Politics with Tony. This is sort of I would call it the pilot episode. I am a podcaster. I actually had my podcast on Anchor.fm. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of that. It was just an audio podcast. I didn't do anything video or visual. A lot of my friends were telling me, you should go to YouTube. You should start a YouTube. No. Well, I don't have the equipment for, like a good YouTube channel. So I was reluctant at first, but apparently it's not that difficult. I've got a newer phone, so I figured it's not that difficult to upload videos from the phone. So I'm gonna give it a try. So this is the new Politics with Tony podcast. It is the video version. So welcome. I'm going to do this episode the same way I did sort of the first episode of my podcast on Anchor.fm. It's sort of more of an introduction to who I am. So first you're going to notice that I don't have a beautiful studio behind me. This is just some drywall that we put up in my basement. I'm in my basement. You can look around and you'll see lots of kid stuff. But yeah, I'm a regular, everyday, blue collar American. I was actually born in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, no joke. I currently live in Oxford, Nebraska, with a population that's like, I don't know, 700 people. It's pretty low. So to get to my birth to here, lots of things happened. I went to school in Pennsylvania. It wasn't bad. I moved around a lot. My parents were military, and due to that, I actually joined the military for about 12 years. Actually, I was in the active duty service for 12 years. I traveled quite a bit. It was fun. I joined right after 9/11. I was one of the 9/11 kids that joined the army, thinking I'm doing something, a service to my country. And I'm not, when I say it like that, I'm not downplaying it. I loved it. It was amazing, and I do love my service. I think it was a great time in my life. But I'm 35 years old. I am a Republican. The first thing I would usually tell people when they ask me about my political affiliation or things that I believe in as far as politics, I love my Constitution. So I guess I would be labeled as a constitutionalist. I actually keep a copy of my Constitution in my truck or at home at all times when I'm going places or doing anything. My old podcast put me in some pretty cool positions. I was able to do some pretty cool interviewing with some different people. One of which was actually a BLM activist, and he, for the most part in the beginning, it seemed fairly well. I uncovered his racism, shortly after. The thing about what I like to do and where I became active in politics was actually when Trump announced his run as a president. He wanted to become president, so he announced it, and that was late 2015, I believe it was. And I watched politics change simply over his announcement, and a lot of what happened beyond that sort of changed my perception on politics. I had my own perceptions. I had my own biases, but that it got morphed a little bit due to Trump running. And Trump ran in a way that most of us on this side of the aisle we didn't like, but we didn't hate either. This isn't a politician doing this. This is a businessman and an entertainer that's that's doing this. Now you can laugh all you want about the idea that he's an entertainer, but I mean, as a reminder, many Democrats also still praise Reagan, who was an actor before he was ever a politician, especially a president. So in reality, it's not far-fetched to see somebody from this background get this kind of position. And so seeing that happening wasn't the big thing, but the businessman part of it, the business owning part of it was the fact that he was a very rich individual, and a lot of the money that he was using to push his campaigns and push his ideology was his own money. He wasn't using donated money as much, and I like that idea. I like that he was showing that the open capitalist market was helping him do what he's doing, and So you know how most people on the left don't like capitalism, things like that. So let me be forthcoming and tell you now. My podcast started as non-biased. It was more of an educational thing. So in the beginning, when I was doing just the audio podcast, I was doing a lot of podcasts on how things work. So the Electoral College, the impeachment process, things like that. I was talking to them so that people understood it, because I saw a lot of what was happening at the time. The impeachment was happening at the time. And what I saw was a lot of people didn't understand what it all meant. They didn't get it. They were coming to me and asking questions. So I thought, why not? Let me put out a podcast that gives out the basic information as to what really is happening. And when I did, it was very effective. I did a big one on elections, and it did help some of my friends understand what was happening, especially during the primaries here in 2020. And that's sort of where it began. But then the impeachment was getting hot and heavy, and it was very hard to stay unbiased during the impeachment. I know that seems a little weird, but it was very difficult. The reason being is, so you had people like Schiff, people like Nadler, people like Pelosi. They were lying quite a bit throughout a lot of this, and it was very painful to watch. The things they were saying didn't make much sense. The things they were saying weren't staying on topic. They weren't listening. No, Trump wasn't perfect through his presidency. I will never, ever be the Republican to say he was the best president. I don't think he was. But I will say that he was one of the best presidents we've had in a very, very, very long time. The accomplishments that he has made while being president, they far exceed any other accomplishments of Obama, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Senior, Reagan. Well, Reagan he's pretty close with Reagan, but all the other ones, no. He far surpassed what they did for our economy, for our military, for our religion, for our freedoms, for everything, and it was amazing. And some people don't agree, I get that, and that's fine, and some people do, whatever. But the thing about what I saw, and this is the big thing, is that the left began a war in a way that I was sort of shocked that they did. Not in a sense that I'm shocked that somebody would do it, but the sense that a political party would do what they were doing. And it got ugly. I mean, I'm sure that most of you remember 2016. If you don't remember 2016, if you're not old enough and you're watching this video, I would not ask somebody with a bias what happened in 2016 and how it went. I would look into it for yourself. A lot could be said. A lot could be said about what Hillary was doing, about what Trump was doing, and what the media was doing. The people that, for some reason, they would claim they supported Trump before, and then suddenly now they hate him. There was such a switch in politics, in personal opinions, in the media. Specifically, the media was one of the biggest changes I saw, and a lot of that, I don't know, it drove me in a way to start doing political activism, basically, kind of pushing against the media and pushing against the left. So just to lay this out, okay, this, like I said, this is more of an introduction podcast, introduction episode. I'm not going to belittle the left as far as the people that support the Democrats. You will hear me say nasty things about Democrats themselves, actual lawmakers, legislators, executive officers, things like that. I will do that. But I will do that because that is them, that they should be doing better than they are, and they're not. You will hear me talk negatively about Republicans. I have things to say that the right should be doing that aren't. I have things that I don't like about Trump that I talk about, and I wish that he would improve. But so we're all clear. A lot of this is based on the Constitution, which is the most important piece of information. Not information. The most important. It's the most important document we have in this country. Period. There's no getting around that. It is what molded the country into what it is today. And I have a lot of ideology through the Constitution that changes what you might perceive the Constitution as. Most people don't understand for some reason that the Constitution is not there to give citizens the rights. The citizens technically already have the rights. If you are a natural-born citizen or a legal immigrant in our country, the rights that are protected within the Constitution, you already have. The Constitution is not there to give you the rights. The Constitution is there to make sure that the politicians in charge do not take those rights from you. And that is something that I've had to push quite a bit when talking to most people that don't really understand politics or our current political atmosphere. And I will always say this: I think the right and the left get that wrong on occasion. Most of the time, it's more the left. But my podcast will be geared towards what it's the current events. Normally, current events like what you would expect from a podcast. Yes, I'm going to give my opinions. They are thought through quite a bit. You may hear some of my opinions in other podcasts or in other informative posts, maybe on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that. But this is more of what I'm thinking. I do exploring as far as stories, and then I do my own digging. I have sources all across the country. Like I said, I spent 12 years in the military. I've got people that I know all over the place that are willing to at least help me a little bit, give me some information that I can run with and work on. I will not talk about things I don't know much about. If I don't know much about it, I will say, I don't have all the information. But one of the things I'm working on currently, and this is the next episode, I'm not sure when I will post this, I'm hoping soon, is the Woodward tapes. And most of you have heard about Woodward and Trump having a very long, very lengthy conversation on February 7th. It was actually 18 hours worth of a phone conversation between Trump and Woodward. And nothing was released back then, so let's keep that in mind. But here we are now. It is, September 11th, 2001. I'm recording this episode. This was a story that began about 3 days ago, I believe, September 8th, September 9th, somewhere. It came out that Woodward had these audio clips from when Trump was talking to him on the phone, saying things like, I purposely downplay, I want to downplay, I want to avoid a panic. A lot of people call Trump a liar. I have a lot to say about the Woodward tapes. I love that the left is attacking Trump for what was said in the Woodward tapes, considering that they did nothing at the same time he was doing something. So anyway, these are the things I like to talk about, and these are things I put out. So just an example, we will talk about we'll talk about Woodward real quick, small. These are the things that I kind of try to put together as I listen to politics. I listen to any information getting tossed around, and then I do my own reading. So initially, one of the things that Trump talked about in the Woodward clips was that the virus is airborne. He was like, "Oh, terrible! That's just terrible. It's worse than being touched. It's just terrible. I hate it." And you know how Trump is. It's either the best or the worst. There's no real in between with the guy. He doesn't know how to be mediocre. It's either the best or the worst. That's it. There is no in between with Trump. So he was talking about how it's 5 times worse than the flu as far as that, and he's also talking about it being airborne. Now, what's funny is that came out February 7th. He talked to Woodward about the airborne capability of coronavirus February 7th. The WHO, World Health Organization, did not actually release the confirmation that coronavirus was airborne until July. So we can sit here and look at everything and go, he lied. How did he lie? Sure, he tossed out what most scientists in the intelligence briefing he was getting was saying. This could be airborne. So he said it was airborne. How many people, how much of the media was going to believe him when he said it? They didn't believe anything else he said. They don't want to believe it. They believed it if they didn't like it, just so they could use it against him. But they didn't believe it if it made sense because, no. We can't have Trump making sense. That's bullshit. How was that going to be any different? Explain to me how the media wasn't going to twist that if he'd released that it was airborne at the time. So, of course, Woodward didn't say anything about it, and it didn't come out publicly. But it didn't come out publicly because at the time they didn't know. The intelligence briefing that Trump and many Democrats, especially the higher up Democrats, were getting at the time, was that it could be airborne. Now remember that too. Many Democrats got the exact same briefings that he got. So he got them, and I believe the end of, or mid-January, the top Democrats across the country got the exact same briefing in mid-March or in mid-February. I'm talking like, I think it was like the 12th. I don't remember the exact date. I believe though it was early to mid-February. What was funny about that, they got the exact same information he did. These are people that have every capability to control their states. They don't have the capability of controlling the federal end of the government, but they had every capability of controlling their states. And you have Nancy Pelosi on February 24th, 2020, telling the media publicly on live, "Hey, Chinatown's not so bad. We're doing good down here. There's no issues. We shouldn't conflate China with Chinatown. You all should come down here and enjoy yourselves. Don't worry about that mask and social distancing shit. Just come down here and hang out." It was like 2 weeks before that. Not even, no, I don't even think 2 weeks. I think it was like a week and a half, maybe. Before that, she got the same briefing Trump did about how serious the virus could be or is. And now suddenly Trump's the one that's wrong. These are the things that I highlight in my podcast. These are the things that we'll talk about in my podcast, is how I don't understand why, Trump gets in trouble about the things he does when the left is doing the exact same thing. A lot of things have happened in the last 4 years they're very notable, and we will bring them up. I will bring them up on many occasions. Here's some more basics about me. Yes, like I said, I'm very Republican, but I am more pro-constitutionalist, or more pro-constitution than I am anything else. I am not religious. That is a hard fact to try to use or utilize in a conversation. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in any God. I believe that most religions are fake. That is my opinion. I don't look at the religious side of anyone and tell them they're wrong. I won't do it. I believe fully that everyone has the individual right to believe in any religion they want. One of the other things that I am is I do very firmly and strictly believe in individualism, as in we all are our own person. So it's okay if you believe in God and I don't. We can still have good conversations constantly. I respect anyone's belief in a religion. I will absolutely do that. Just please don't try to make me believe in it. I've done enough research and done enough looking into things to know where I stand. That doesn't mean that I'm ever going to tell you you're wrong. I will not do it. But I don't want you to come to me and tell me I'm wrong for not believing. So let's just make sure the religion, as much as I respect all of your decisions to be religious or not, I'm going to keep religion kind of at a distance. We may bring it up as far as how things are being dealt with in the political spectrum, but in reality, no, I don't like talking about religion much, because I know I don't believe, but I know most people do, and that is great. I think it's wonderful when people do. I just don't like the people that push it. That's all. If you haven't really taken notice, I'm a big fan of the Second Amendment. That is my favorite amendment, as most gun rights activists are. The Second Amendment is very important to our Constitution. It is actually the amendment, as we all believe, well, as gun advocates believe. The Second Amendment is actually there to protect all other amendments and rights, and in reality, that's the truth. You can see that evident in many other countries. It started about 5 years ago in the UK, and it is now currently happening in Australia. So the UK and Australia both had their buyback programs. Now, they were a little bit different as far as how they were implemented, but the same thing did happen, where people had weapons, and then they decided no more, so they had the buyback program. It was a little bit more comprehensive and a little bit gentler, let's say, in Australia than it was in the UK. But in the UK, when it began, almost immediately after, people were getting in trouble for saying things about the Queen, about the monarchy, and now it's actually gone to Facebook posts, and now the Australia is suffering from the same issues. People are getting arrested for Facebook posts. They said something we don't like and we've got to arrest them. That's the problem. The First Amendment is protected by the Second. You lose the Second, you lose the First. That is what we as Americans believe. That is what we as constitutional Americans believe. I'm not going to say that, I will always say that there's tons of people on the left that probably believe some of the same things we do, or at least I do. But I will just say that as far as the Constitution, that is what Americans believe. If you look into other countries that have this issue, they're not getting that same respect because they don't have guns. The control is easy if you don't have an armed population. The population isn't armed, therefore it's easier to control, and that's what they're doing currently in those two countries. China is another one, although that is not anything I would call a democracy. Of course, it's more of a socialist program there. It's a dictatorship. We know this. Same thing with Russia. So a lot of these things we are going to cover in the next couple of weeks, months, years, whatever, however long it takes me to do these podcasts before I start actually being heard. But that's the idea. I did, like I said, all of you could go on to Anchor.fm and look up Politics with Tony and see me on there. Now, of course, it's not a video thing; it's an audio thing. I did a lot of audio podcasts back then, probably a couple hundred. I don't know about a couple hundred, maybe 100, but I did a lot of them back then. And if you dig enough, you'll hear some of the you can almost hear the evolution of how things changed for me as well. Nothing changed as far as my opinion as who I want to vote for, my political affiliation, things like that. But what did change was my opinion on how the media works, how the left works, how certain candidacy works, how voting works, things like that, because I saw and researched certain things. A lot of it was ugly. And that's the most damaging thing. I think that's the most damaging part about all this, is it was very ugly. And like I said earlier, that's one of the reasons why I started doing these podcasts is I didn't like how ugly it got. So I wanted to be part of the voice that was giving reason to the madness. And it didn't work as well as I'd hoped. Well, partially because no one knows what Anchor.fm is, but mostly because things were changing so much back in December, January. December is when I began my podcasting, and it was starting the impeachment inquiries, and then inevitably, obviously, the impeachment trial itself, including most of the things that were happening leading up to the coronavirus, the Iran issue that we had back in January, where we're all going to get in war with Iran. Hilarious. So let's just end this on this one, okay? This is the end. I will be covering as much, current events as I can politically, and I will be talking about them as far as what I'm seeing, why it's happening, things like that. Yes, I'm a pro-Trump advocate. I will always tell you that I'm going to vote for Trump until he does something that warrants me to not vote for him. I will be voting for him, 100%. If you're going to try to tell me in the comment section that I am racist, that I'm xenophobic, that I'm homophobic, anything like that, I have an argument for all of it, because that is not Trump. 100% that is not Trump. He has homosexuals on his board. His administration has homosexuals. There were people working for that homosexual that were transgender that Trump supported. Trump was the first person to openly support gay marriage. There are things that Trump did that many don't know that he did. And due to that fact, they hate him for it. And that irritates me, because Obama didn't do it. The past presidents didn't do it, so why is it that Trump has to do it? One of the things that we will talk about is his tax returns. Everybody's like, well, they're so pissed off that he hasn't released them. Well, first and foremost, he's the first businessman we've had as a politician. That's what he was. That is how he is known. He is known, sure, for his education. Excuse me, that's not the word I meant. His entertainment factor. He was on WWE. He did his shows, things like that. People know that, but we all know that the man, owned businesses. That's what he did. So, how is it that we are going to apply every single non-rule? Because there's no rule. There's no law, mandate, rule, order, anything in place that says a president has to release his tax returns. Nothing. There's not one thing that says they have to. Other presidents did it out of, tradition, and that's fine. So then you have him not doing it. And everybody's like, well, why the fuck? This is jacked up. No, it's not. He's a businessman. He still owns businesses. He's trying to protect his businesses. There is nothing wrong with that. And until there is a law stating he needs to release them, he doesn't need to. I hate the fact that the Supreme Court's actually trying to force him to do it. I really don't like that. And that is something we will talk about in future podcasts. That all will also depend on the election coming up in about 50 days. We are going to talk quite a bit about that, and I will be making more episodes. I'm sorry, I want to do one a day, but I'm a busier man than I thought. This is not my job. I wish this was my job, but this is not my job. This is my hobby. So if you're viewing this, if you've watched this from the start, if you're just watching this now, that's fine. Please do me a favor, hit subscribe. Hit a like, give me a comment, something. I'm looking for ways to improve, what you like, what you hated. So what I used to say in my old podcast, I'll say it now. If you like what you heard, tell me about it. If you hated what you heard, tell me about it. If you got a way to improve, tell me about it. Something. Say something to me. Give me some input so I can make it better the next episode, and I will. That is the goal through all of this, is we want to talk politics, but I want to do it in a decent manner. No, I will not always have a decent demeanor when it comes to talking about the left, but I will do my best to make sure that what is being said is truthful, at least minimally. It's got to be truthful. I don't like the idea that people are lying. I don't like the idea that people are taking things out of context. It's irritating. You will hear me say things negatively about Trump, because Trump doesn't always do the right thing. He has been known to make mistakes, as every person, president, anyone does. But I will tell you this, I'm still supportive of him until he does something to a point that I don't like. I am a veteran, a 12-year Army veteran, and the bullshit that was tried to pull through the media that he doesn't like veterans was a lie, an absolute lie, 100%. And I've got many ways to show how it's a lie. So we will talk about that as well in upcoming episodes, probably the next one. I will do my best to cover the Woodward tapes and Pelosi's need to get her hair done, and the veteran crap that came up recently. That'll be the next episode. But I will still talk about some of the things that I notice. As far as one other thing I didn't talk about is that when I started getting into politics, I actually got the C-SPAN app on my phone, and I had a job that was actually allowing me to use it. I could put that in all day, as long as it was only one, and I could actually hear them speaking. I was a painter in a paint booth, so I could put headphones in and just listen. So for 12 hours a day, for 3 to 4 days a week, sometimes even 5, I was listening to C-SPAN, listening to the House of Representatives and the Senate, learning a lot about the laws and the bills that are being passed. I still do it to this day. Nowhere near as much, but I listen. So I know a lot about what's happening on Capitol Hill. And I want to make sure that my friends, my family, and those of you that hopefully will become avid followers, will get educated on. So please, wherever, I don't know what corner, even if it's right in the middle of my face, I don't care. Wherever the subscribe button is, hit it, and I will be putting more videos up. Hopefully, as time goes, I might be able to improve the production value of my videos, and if that's the case, that'd be great. Hopefully, you guys stick around long enough to see that. But anyway, please, like I said, leave a comment if you like what you heard. Leave a comment if you hated what you heard. Leave a comment if you have an improvement. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, anything you want. But please, don't be silent. If you've got something to say to me, say it to me. I've got no problems addressing it, and I could do it in a very mature manner. I'm not going to call nobody names. I don't want to do it. I don't like it. We can talk. I will be putting people's comments into the podcast following, depending on what it is. So, of course, if you're telling me I'm a complete piece of shit, Well, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that, but if you've got a point that you're making in the comments, I will absolutely talk about that point with you. Um, yes, and by the way, if you haven't noticed, I do swear on occasion. I don't have a problem with it. If you do, I apologize. I might not be the podcast for you, but just understand that my swearing isn't directed at anyone. It just comes out. It just comes out, so I apologize for that. But at the same time, I don't know. Anyway, y'all have a good one. You stay safe. This is September 11th, by the way, so I want y'all to know that September 11th meant a lot to many veterans like myself who joined because of September 11th. So let's all at least take a moment to remember what September 11th meant to us and how it affected our lives, so that it's something we don't forget in the future. It was harsh on many of us. I was 16 at the time. I was 16 at the time, and it broke my heart. I remember, and that's why I joined the military. So take a moment and at least remember the moment in 2001. Don't let that moment die. If it does, it's like history being forgotten. Let's remember what happened. Remember the people that were infected. Remember the people that were affected. Remember the people that were there to help. And specifically remember the people who were there to save the day between the first responders and the military that dealt with the issue afterwards. Anyway, y'all have a good one. Stay safe, America. It's Politics with Tony.